And more of the sounds of September 11th, 17 years ago. We continue to take your phone calls with Kevin Miller, Liberty Linda. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, we can all remember waking up that morning, you know, turning our televisions on and seeing the horror of one plane going into one tower. And we're sitting there thinking, did we just see that happen? Did a plane actually fly into one of our towers? And then in the midst of that, we see another plane fly into the other tower. And I think all of us must have shrieked in horror and unbelief. Is this really happening? I mean, we all had to have been. The word that comes to me is unbelief and horror. Is this really happening? And yes, when we come to the realization this is really happening. You know, Kevin, I gave birth to a daughter on an earlier September the 11th, and she cannot have her birthday on that date. She has her birthday and celebrates it with her husband on September 25th now. How many lives have been changed since that day? You know, all we can do is think in remembrance of those who were involved with that. And this will always be a day of remembrance and a day that, you know, our hearts go out to those who didn't make it through those days, that day, and all our wonderful firefighters and those who rushed in to help them. You know, our hearts still go out to them, their families. And, you know, Kevin, how many years have I tuned in now to your show? And we've been able to hear all your callers call in and have this morning. Thank you for being there for us, all of your callers, the Miller Militia, and be able to go back and think of this day together. Thank you, Kevin. It will always be a day in our beautiful United States, that a day of remembrance and a day of still horror, unbelief, and the care that goes out in love to the people that were involved. Our love still goes out to those families and those who were involved. And basically that's what I wanted to say this morning, a day of remembrance.
Thank you, Liberty Linda. God bless.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin Miller in the morning here. Coming up, more sounds from September 11th, but this is a program about hearing what you have to say, and we'll take more of your phone calls. We go to Patriot Ray. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Good morning, Kevin. I remember everything very well. The problem we have today is we have a lot of youth who are now of voting age that don't remember or doesn't comprehend to them what took place. And everybody's screaming we need to have open borders. And we're just opening ourselves up for more attacks of any kind, whether it's on the land or the air again or whatever. But we need to be vigilant. That's the whole idea of this great nation. We protect our borders. We protect our country. We have open borders. We protect nothing. So we've got to be cautious of who comes in. That's the reason we have the idea of people coming in legally, not illegally, and then saying, well, they're just immigrants who didn't know better. Well, that's not true. We've got people coming in who are not good individuals. So we need to remember what took place on 9/11. We need to remember that there is evil out there, and we cannot be non-vigilant. We need to be open. Our eyes need to be open. Our hearts need to be open for those who really want to come here and really come to a better life, and not come here and to just try to destroy what this great nation really is. Obama trying to say that he made the economy what it is today, that's just sick. I mean, he didn't do anything to help us. He went around apologetic all over the world for everything that America has done that's been great and downplaying everything. So we appreciate all that you do, Kevin. You are a great individual. Love to know you. Love that this great nation is something that I care about, that you care about, that so many others do. We have got to be the people that stand up for what is right. God bless America. God bless you, Kevin. God bless your family. Please take care. Have a great, wonderful day. Thank you.
God bless you, old friend. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We go to Hank in Boise. Hank, good morning.
Good morning. What I'd like to point out about 9/11, we really see the beginnings of the types of behavior that the Democrat Party is currently engaging on. The blame for what happened on there was because the Clinton administration put down rules that the intelligence agency and the FBI couldn't talk to each other in terms of intelligence. They had pieces of the puzzle beforehand, but they weren't allowed to talk to each other by the rules. Then they set up the commission where one of the woman, I can't remember her name, that was in charge of this in the Justice Department and who made the original rule, was sitting in judgment in the investigation. In other words, it was a stacked, corrupt investigation. And then then they tried to project the blame for what happened on George Bush, when clearly it was the Clintons and their security policies that got us in the mess in the first place. And I hate to think if Al Gore became president in 2001, what his response would have been if it happened in his time. We might have had a tour, apology tour to all the 8 years in advance of Obama. I mean, I think the world would have even been a more dangerous place. But the types of behavior where they project their behavior onto us and then accuse us of the very behavior that they're doing, and then the corruption that went on, the corruption that goes on in the beginnings of the corruption that goes on in the intelligence agencies and the Justice Department have their origins during the 9/11. So in a sense, what happened in 9/11 is really, in a sense, the prelude to what we're seeing now in the Trump administration with the Democrats and their behavior.
Hank, great call. We appreciate it. Tea Party Bob joins us now with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tea Party Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
See, you're very emotional on this day, and aren't we all? Before we get rolling, it's amazing that more media outlets don't do what we do, which is go back to that day. And I'm so grateful that people understand why we do that. It's amazing that people just kind of, blow everything off and just move on as if it's just another day.
That's true. When I think back to the World Trade Center, it used to be a very happy place for me. I used to walk through it every day on my way to work. And it was a favorite watering hole and a place to entertain clients. But 9/11, all that changed, and America would actually change forever. It brought in a generation of new policies like the Patriot Act. It got us involved in the war in Afghanistan, which we're still going at it today. In 2002, Homeland Security was formed. The Immigration and Naturalization Service, U.S. Customs, became ICE, which for all purposes changed the way we look at immigration. We went from deporting 200,000 to over 400,000 people by 2009 each year. Our friendly skies that we used to enjoy flying. I mean, I used to have a good time flying back and forth across this country, but they turned into a frisking party by the TSA and the long security lines full of body scans and pat downs and eventually removing your shoes to check for bombs. The new security measures meant no pocket knives, no cigarette lighters, and of course, no bottled water. When you think back on this, you say, what kind of crazy stuff is going on here? Not to mention the horrendous delays. The incident also created one of the largest pushes by the government spying on Americans through our own intelligence agencies, tapping our phones, checking our emails. We have 16 spy agencies with 107,000 employees. And we know they're intercepting our emails and our phone calls that have no connection with terrorism. 9/11 has changed how America thinks about the safety of ourselves and our friends. And it's a reminder of how we must all be on guard constantly to keep our families and friends safe from further acts of terrorism. For me, 9/11 has special significance.
Excuse me. But I lost dozens of friends that worked for Cantor Fitzgerald in the 105th floor. They were all trapped there. They couldn't get out. People I'd known for many years. So it's a very sad day for me, and I sure ain't going to forget it. But it's a constant reminder for us to be in our God, that we never repeat this horrible event or allow it to happen again. Thanks for having this today. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
God bless you, old friend. Our great friend Tea Party Bob, who worked with President Trump, worked with those folks at Cantor Fitzgerald in New York. Painful day for him every day that we bring this back. But it's important, is it not? You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller in the morning. And I know we haven't forgotten. We must continue to remind ourselves to be ever vigilant, to remember the fallen. Max in Garden City, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, sir. When the Twin Towers fell in New York, we lost so much more than lives, prestige. We lost an extensive list of personal freedoms as elements of the deep state marched right in and took them away. As Tea Party Bob mentioned, they began to monitor all of our communications. They passed a bill called the Patriot Act that nobody was even allowed to read before. They weren't even done writing it when it was passed. I firmly believe that the events that brought down the towers in New York City, those tragic and terrible events, were either orchestrated, approved, or had a blind eye turned toward them by the deep state, NSA, CIA, and FBI. I believe that same orchestration by whomever did it allowed a tremendous expense as we opened up 17 years of losing warfare in Afghanistan and the debacle of Iraq. It's sad to see what my country has turned to. You have security circus at the airport.
Now, you're saying it was an inside job?
No, I'm saying it was either orchestrated by, given approbation to, or had a blind eye turned away so that they could turn this event to their own device. And they've done a good job of it. The smoke hadn't even stopped. The rubble hadn't all settled, and they had already begun to write the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was pushed through Congress, pushed through the Senate with such ease as to be a crime. Senator Rand Paul said, let me have a read. You can't read it, just vote for the darn thing. Now, this phone call right now, our emails are being monitored. You could never have gotten away with this in a totally free country. The only country with more supervision than us would be either Great Britain or Communist China. I think that the 9/11 tragedy goes far deeper than just the loss of human life. And this is a day to mourn. We mourn the loss of lives, and we mourn the loss of our American freedoms. These covers don't run. They turn yellow. Anyone who would trade his security for freedom has neither. You trade your freedom for security, you have neither. And that's where we stand today.
Max, God bless. Thank you very much. You're listening to Kevin Miller. Our phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you're first time listening to the program, we're remembering September 11th. Coming up, the sounds of that day and more of your phone calls. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Isaac in Parma, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Good morning, Kevin. It's been quite a while since we've spoke.
Ah, my old friend Isaac. Yes, I know you well.
Yes. Hey, I'm on my way into try to explain to my 17-year-olds that I teach what today's all about. And I spent the last week leading up today, and it's amazing to me. And most of these 17-year-olds either were not born or were just born when we were attacked, and they know all about the anti-George Bush and the so-called weapons of mass destruction. They know all that stuff. But they have no idea about what led up to 9/11, the failures of our government. I think Max is on to something about certain elements within our government probably, whether explicitly or inexplicitly, allowed things to occur. But they have no clue what the fight we're in. They have no understanding of it. and quite frankly, many of them don't even care. And, one of my goals when they come to my class, get them to leave to care. And one thing they don't understand is this is not a fight that's going to end today. It's not going to end in their lifetime, and many of them are enlistment age. They don't understand that it's their fight now. And it is extremely frustrating when I read our textbooks on how one-sided garbage it is. In fact, it's the reason I don't use textbooks in my class. They've had a lifetime of indoctrination of lies. And when they get to me, they're astonished. And they'll tell me, Mr. Moffitt, I've never heard this before. Why have we not heard this other side of the story? I said, well, do you really think there are elements within the system that want you to know the truth? Of course not. They have no interest in you knowing the full truth. So I hear Tea Party Bob's pain. The kids see it in my eyes. When we're done watching the documentary today, I'll have to leave the classroom. I clearly remember where I was when those towers came down and knowing how many people died. And the kids just they don't get it. I don't understand the disconnect. They got their heads so far snorting condoms and eating Tide Pods, I guess. I don't know. But I'm fortunate to work with students who are open to hearing and realizing that they've been sold a bag of goods all their lives in school, and when they finally get to me, they hear another side of it for them to consider. And, but I teach a very small population. What about all the other students that are not getting the truth or not getting at least another side to consider? That's what's concerning to me.
Well, Isaac, that's why we try to be here each and every day, and we can hope to be here for many more years because the other side isn't getting out, brother.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I appreciate you bringing it up today.
You take care. Thank you for all you do, old friend.
You too. Thank you.
Our great friend, Isaac Moffitt. Always great to have him back in the area. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's get you to work safely and on time.
Meteorologist Jim Ducey.
Kevin Miller in the morning. We continue on with a look back.
I think this is a time that we pray for the children who lost their mamas and daddies. We pray for the family members who lost loved ones. And what we must do is resume our normal lives as quickly as we can and to show whomever is responsible that we will not be frozen by their acts of terrorism. I hope that every mother and every daddy will take time tonight to be with their kids, to hold them and to love them and to let them know that they're loved.
Apparently there is a fire at the top of the World Trade Center. I repeat, a huge fire at the top of the World Trade Center. We have this now, yes? A plane crashed into the World Trade Center.
This just happened moments ago. A plane crash in the top of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan.
This is broadcasting at its best. It's what broadcasting does to serve the public best.
James in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Kevin. Welcome back to Idaho.
Great to be here.
I just had a perspective on some of the reasons why people don't get 9/11 that are younger. I remember when it happened or shortly thereafter, I was speaking with one of the older office secretaries where I worked, and she wasn't as bothered by it because I was talking about the loss of life and the impact that it had on me at the time. I was in my early 20s. And she said, no, it was sad and everything, but the difference with her, this wasn't the catastrophic event that they had lived through. She felt this way after the Kennedy assassination or things of that type that were large emotional impacting things for her. I mean, it was only one loss, she said, comparative to the massive loss of life on 9/11, but that was the thing that affected her when she was in her 20s at that time. The kids that haven't, had that experience, it will be, unfortunately, probably something in the future that'll, connect with them with that kind of loss. I mean, unfortunately, some of them equated to the 2016 election, and that had their, emotions all in an uproar. But this kind of thing, they can't relate to it. It's nothing that happened that affects them the same way it affected us at that time.
Yeah, I suppose, but I think when when we heard about President Kennedy dying, being assassinated, I think that impacted us. But we were wired differently. That's no knock against the kids today. It's just, everything as we go from tragedy to tragedy, we don't know if we're going to impeach Trump or cover the hurricane.
Right. It's just something that I recalled. I mean, it stuck with me. It's, what she said like that, or Vietnam, or different things that they had gone through that were different than our time now.
Well, like I said, the president is obviously in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and you remember where every channel was the news. A very different world we live in today, where we get the news everywhere.
Well, it's just something that was unexpected that had happened to our country. I mean, here it happened in other places, and this is what I got into the military service after this, because I wanted to fight and defend country after I saw these things happen. I was in within a year and a half later.
Well, thank you, James, for your service.
You take care, Kevin. Good luck today.
Thank you. God bless. All right, coming up next, we will hear from you and the sounds of September 11th. We have not forgotten. We will not forget. We will always remember. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Again, as we go through this day. More on that in a minute. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
The Treasure Valley's exclusive home for Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM and 580 AM.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Quickly to Tess, and then back to the sounds of 17 years ago. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Hey, you know what? I thought about this a lot and a lot of my feelings, and I just want to share my experiences. We were living up in Anchorage at the time that this occurred, and, we were actually living in a large apartment complex prior to moving back to Idaho. And what I remember was that complex at the time had a lot of refugees, immigrants that had moved into it, and these were individuals that were Afghanis, Iraqis, Iranians, Bangladeshis, Syrians, but they were all Muslims. And my daughter used to always go down and try to play with these children. And as long as the parents were never there, they would play with her. But when the parents came onto the playground, the children always abandoned her. So what I remember was going home on 9/11, and as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw that group of children, and I saw their parents, a lot who never talked to each other, and they were literally dancing in a circle, cheering, clapping, yelling, being very happy. And when they saw my truck pull up, they all stopped. And I parked my truck and I got out, and one of the men came up to me, and because I was actually a member of that housing board, and said, you shouldn't ever try to take a man off of his mountain. And he turned and left. So here were children that my daughter had played with from several different countries, ethnicities, but all the same religious value. And so what I remember were the jets that day that for 2 days from Elmendorf Air Force Base flew over the town back and forth about 1,500 to 2,000 feet for 2 days. I remember Alascom Communications turned all the phones off. If you were a ham like I am, you could not get out. Everything had some type of static or interference on it. I remember a child from our church who was on Flight 95 who was flying back east. And, what I remind myself every day is that I love this country. And, I used to have a sticker on it that used to say, America, love it or leave it. And I haven't seen those in years. Maybe somebody needs to start producing those again. But I think you need to be vigilant, When the wolf is at your door, don't treat them like they're a dog. Don't treat them like they're a pet, like something that you can approach. Because you shouldn't be surprised when you get bitten. And right now there are millions of these individuals who are over here in our country who hate our country, who hate our values, but they're running for office. They're on our school boards. They've moved into communities and they don't have our values. They have their values. So love the ones that love this country, who want to be here, because we're not a melting pot anymore. We haven't been for a long time. So just be wary of the wolves, because you know what? Predators always go where the prey is the most comfortable.
Right.
And every hunter knows that.
Thank you, Tess.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share with you, and maybe you can relate to it, and maybe a lot of other people too. There's a change that's happened to me.
We got like a unified country now. It seems people are all together.
The attacks actually strengthened New York. There was a resolve that was shown that nobody could even believe. And today, the New York market is stronger than it's ever been. It's hard to believe. I have windows that look directly on the World Trade Center, and you look out the window, it's not there. And yet the city is now stronger than it was on September 11th.
It's going to be gut-wrenching, but we've got to hang in there.
Basically, I'm really proud to be an American. I love this country. God has given me the opportunity to make something of myself here, whereas if I were to live in another certain country...
I just want to let everybody know, we need to unite, and we need to protect our freedom for our kids.
Maybe I took my country for granted in the past, but I don't anymore, and I understand for the first time how valuable and how precious our freedom is.
Actor James Woods.
Americans, they never cease to surprise me in the best way possible. They always are better than we ever think. Honestly, I don't want to sound like a phony patriot, but, it's like Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times and the worst of times. Can you think of a better time in American history in terms of the way we have reacted as a nation to each other, to the country, to our needs, to our sympathy for victims, to our support of the heroes who went and faced these awful circumstances?
Have you forgot about September 11th?
Let's don't forget the tragedy that has happened to our country.
You remember when you watch Saving Private Ryan and you see those guys going up the beach and you think, how in the heck could they do that? For the first time in my life, I understood that. I understood a love for my country where I am really, honest to God, I'm willing to die for my country. I'm willing for my family to die.
As the President suggested and our nation agreed, life must go on in our American tradition.
I'm concerned that we're forgetting September 11, 2001 a little bit too fast. I don't see as many American flag pins. I don't see as many American flags as I did in the days after September 11, 2001.
We never received my sister's remains back, and we have nowhere to go other than this site to pay her honor and to pay all the Americans who were killed here honor.
Let this day always be a reminder to our nation and to the world
Tatiana Baskalinskaya,
why we fight in freedom's cause.
Michael S. Baksh,
and why we must fight and win this global war on terror.
Sharon M. Balcom.
May God bless and protect our patriots.
Michael Andrew Bain.
And may he continue to bless the United States of America.
Catherine Bantis.
2 years later, they're still there.
We must commit ourselves to the only goal
Gerard Baptiste.
that is worthy
Walter Baron.
of their memories.
Gerard A. Barbara.
To eradicate the disease that killed them,
Paul Vincent Barbaro.
wherever it is,
James William Barbella.
and however long it takes. If we do not persevere,
Ivan Kyrillos F. Barbosa.
we will be haunted
Victor Daniel Barossa.
for eternity
Christine Barbuto.
by the memories of those who were taken from us on September 11.
Colleen Ann Batco.
They said no. No.
We have to consistently remind ourselves so we're vigilant and we don't move away from the things we learned on September 11. And at the same time, we move ahead with life in a very positive way.
Let us never forget.
We're not going to be stopped. We're not going to be deterred. We're not going to stay at home.
This event can give a message
We're
of
not
hope.
going to be frightened.
Hope for the present.
We're going to live our lives
and hope for the future.
as Americans.
People are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows.
Let's roll.
A second plane has now flown in.
Wait, explosion at the Pentagon?
A third location on New York and outside of Washington.
I don't have words to describe what I'm witnessing right now.
Another attack on our people will be attempted. We can't know where or when, or by what technique. That reality drives those of us in government to ask the tough questions. When and how might that attack be attempted? And what will we need to have done today and every day before the attack to prepare for it and to, if possible, prevent it?
Had I known a terrorist attack on the United States was imminent in 2001, I would have unloaded our full arsenal of weaponry against it, despite the inevitable criticism. The Justice Department's warriors, our agents, and our prosecutors would have been unleashed.
We owe it to those that we lost, and to their loved ones, and to our country, to learn all that we can about that tragic day and the events that led to it.
We tried hard, but that doesn't matter because we failed. And for that failure, I would ask, once all the facts are out, for your understanding and for your forgiveness.
The Vice President and I just finished a good conversation with the 911 Commission. It was wide-ranging. It was important.
The President answered all of our questions. And we had a discussion as well about our areas of recommendations and how we might go forward with that. And the President was very helpful.
Glad I did it. I'm glad I took the time. This is an important commission. And it's important that they ask the questions they ask so that they can help make recommendations necessary to better protect our homeland.
The simple fact of September 11th is this. We did not know an attack was coming because for nearly a decade our government had blinded itself to its enemies. Even if they could have penetrated bin Laden's training camps, they would have needed a battery of attorneys to approve the capture.
We were not presented with a plan.
That's not true.
We were not presented.
Your government failed you. Those entrusted with protecting you failed you. And I failed you.
We were very concerned about the ability to shoot down a hijacked airplane.
Our anger should clearly be directed, and the blame should clearly be directed at one source and one source alone: the terrorists who killed our loved ones.
We appreciate very much your service to the nation. This concludes our hearing.
Paul McCartney.
Ideally, I would like to turn the other cheek, but I don't think you can in circumstances like this. There were pacifists in World War II who said, just leave Hitler alone, he'd be okay, he'll go away. But he wouldn't have. No way. And you see, maybe they didn't know what he was doing to Jews. But once you do know, you've got to say, no, you don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to leave that for my kids.
We just got to get back to the facts and the foundation of this country, that we have to look after one another. And let's face it, buddy, we are the last chance for the rest of the world. If we don't preserve it, it's not going to get preserved.
September 11 will go down in our history as a day to remember. A tragedy like this could have torn our country apart, but instead it has united us, and we've become a family. We are more united than ever before. This event can give a message of hope. Hope for the present and hope for the future. Yes, there is hope. The spirit of this nation will not be defeated.
We're all brothers. We've all got to stick together.
Those majestic towers built on solid foundations were examples of the prosperity and creativity of America. When damaged, those buildings eventually plummeted to the ground, imploding it upon themselves. Yet underneath the debris is a foundation that was not destroyed. How firm a foundation. Yes, our nation has been attacked, buildings destroyed, lives lost. But now we have a choice, whether to implode and disintegrate emotionally and spiritually as a people and a nation, or whether we choose to become stronger through all of this struggle to rebuild on a solid foundation. The lesson of this event, it's a lesson about our need for each other. What an example New York and Washington have been to the world. And this is going to be a day that we will remember as a day of victory. 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 May God bless you all.
May God bless you all. September 11th, we will never forget our brave heroes that day and post-September 11th that have kept that flame of liberty, that fuel of freedom, alive and kicking. And we owe it to them, to honor them, to pray for them, and to support them. 107.5 FM, 580 AM, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day, blessed to be alive. 17 years after September 11th, our tribute to the heroes continues, of course, urging all of the people in the media, and you are the media these days, to post something on your social media, to post something, to share it with us, and to make a big difference. More on that in a minute. First, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to
I'm Channel 7 meteorologist Tim Duthie.
And a quick email from our friend Nate in Seatown. Hey, Kevin, my phone is dead, so I couldn't call in, but I wanted to share my September 11th story. I was in Chile at the time, serving as an LDS mission. As I was sitting down to eat breakfast, a Chilean lady started shouting at the top of her lungs for me to come see what was on television. At first, I thought, in all seriousness, she was watching Die Hard or something similar. That was the moment that the second plane crashed into the second tower. I knew it wasn't a movie then. My eyes were glued to the screen from there on, trying to figure out what the Spanish newscasters were saying. My mind was attempting to process what was happening on TV. Later, my mission companion and I went to visit people who were watching TV and teaching. Turns out that was a mistake. You see, many Chileans are still upset about what the U.S. did to the people in the country back in the 70s with putting Pinochet into power. He slaughtered many people, and they have not forgotten. There was more than a few who took this opportunity to celebrate the pain that America was now suffering. One man in particular, having had too much to drink, started threatening us with a knife. We had to spend the next few days until things settled down. That experience is what led to my decision to join the United States Marine Corps. I felt that the country needs all hands on deck to help us get through with just what happened. I've never forgotten September 11th.